All right, ladies and gentlemen, David Costa, the Renegade Aviator. We are with you live again. I'm just back from the Moses Lake Air Show. I got a very special guest who you can see in the preview picture there. I'm going to bring her right on board. Everybody knows Vicky Benzing. How you doing, Vicky?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on the show, David.
Well, I certainly appreciate it, and we're here talking air racing, but we're going to start off the show with the two air shows coming up and that beautiful airplane sitting behind you. Everybody on the air racing podcast talks about the Unlimiteds. Everybody loves the Unlimiteds, and what we find over and over again is there's just not the people that were there before that are willing to put the sacrifice into the care, maintenance, flying of beautiful vintage airplanes like these unlimited aircraft, like your P-51 Mustang Plum Crazy. So let's start right off on that because that's what everybody's been asking me. What about that beautiful airplane? So Vicky, can you give a little history of the bird?
Let's just say acquiring it and restoring it was definitely a labor of love. It's a 4-year restoration. So the airplane was built in 1944, right towards the tail end of the war. So it never saw action. It never left the continental U.S. After the war, it went up to Canada and it served at Sea Island, which is Vancouver, Canada. And it was up there till about 1959. And it was sold as a block of Mustangs to a broker out of New York. And then it traded hands a few times. And I think it was just mainly a paper trade. I don't believe the airplane was flown much. The airframe doesn't have much time on it, other than what Clay put on it. And then it was in 1964 that Al Paulson acquired the airplane. And it's kind of an interesting story of how he acquired the airplane. Clay had been up in Reno on a work trip, and he saw a poster for the inaugural Reno air races, and he that intrigued him. So he went back to his pal Al Paulson, and Clay was just a young man, maybe early 30s at the time, didn't own an airplane, and told his friend Al that. And Al was an airplane broker. You should buy a Mustang and let me race it up at Reno. And it just so happened that the day before, Al had gotten a call from a guy out of Idaho about a Cessna 310 that Al had for sale. And the guy wanted to trade his Mustang for the 310. So Al traded him the Mustang plus $10,000 for the Cessna 310, which made the Mustang value about $7,500 because the Tims were going for about $17,500 at the time. And so they acquired the airplane. And at the same time, Al had an airline that he was putting together from these Lockheed Constellations that he had acquired, and he was going to call it Orchid Airlines and run a service between Van Nuys and Hawaii. And his wife was like, "Oh, if you're going to have this airline, you should paint a purple stripe on the side." So they ordered this custom purple color Orchid for their airlines. And they ordered 150 gallons. They were shipped 1,500 gallons of paint. So everything in the hangar, the toolboxes, tools, ladders, and the Mustang got painted purple. And the story is that Fred Smith, who's the founder of FedEx, saw the airplane and saw how eye-catching it was and how much attention it grabbed in its purple livery. So he decided to incorporate purple into the FedEx logo. So Clay raced it, between 1964 and 1972, and he was always second place or third place, but never first place until 1970, and he actually won the national championship in the airplane. And then he went on to race it in 71 and 72. I think 72 he didn't finish for mechanical, but he raced it a number of cross-country air races. And you can't really see it in that picture, but the other gear leg on the airplane lists all the races that, not all of them, but a lot of the races that Clay had entered in, the St. Louis Air Race, the Mojave Air Race, the LA Air Race, tons of them. And when I bought the airplane, Clay had gone through the logbooks and annotated the logbooks with all the races that he raced in and how he finished and little vignettes of things that happened during the races. Yeah, wonderful stories about the airplane. So Clay owned the airplane up until 2019, but I don't believe he flew it much after the mid 70s. Because the last engine to be put in the airplane was put in 1976. And
Wow.
so when we got the airplane, we pulled the engine and had it overhauled. And really, there was nothing wrong with the engine other than corrosion because it hadn't been flown. And
Yeah.
it's a water cooled engine. Um, so yeah, we did that, and then we went through the entire airplane. The hydraulic system had never been overhauled. Had the original 1944 little aluminum tags on it.
Oh man.
It was a pretty incredible time machine, and as we went through it, there were a lot of original factory markings, pencil marks where they had aligned pieces, and the crew at Fighter Rebuilders down in Chino, they were amazed at it, at what a time machine it was, and um, it's a very humbling experience to get to put together something that's such a wonderful piece of history.
Well, it is, and it's a tribute to you, not only as a pilot but as a caretaker for something like this, because you know how much investment of time, energy, and money it takes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I've done a lot of things in aviation, but I hadn't flown a warbird, and it's kind of a male-dominated sport, shall we call it? And there are no museums near me. There's no CAF museums around here, so
Yeah.
it wasn't really likely I would get a chance to fly a warbird. So for one of my birthdays, I decided that I wanted to go out and get typed in the P-51, in the off chance that maybe somebody would let me ferry their P-51, or like I'd get to fly it a little bit maybe. And so I went down to Stallion and went through their course, and I think it was 12 hours.
Okay.
Cost about this amount of a small house and
Yeah.
some parts of the country. Came home with my type rating, and my husband's like, he gives me this little airplane. Can you see it? This little
Yeah,
model.
I see it. Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, this is the only Mustang you're ever gonna get."
That's cool.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I will never buy a Mustang, no problem." This would have been in 2017, I think. The end of Yeah, 2017. And then right rolls, I think end of 2018 rolls around, or middle of 2018 rolls around, and I hear that Clay has this purple Mustang for sale with a Snoopy on the tail. And anybody who knows my Stearman knows that Snoopy rides around in the cockpit with me. Snoopy's there in the front cockpit and has been since, I don't know, 2008, I think, when I flew it out cross country to Oshkosh for the first time.
That's
And
cool.
so that was the airplane. I knew that was the airplane. And it took me quite a long time to convince my husband that that was the airplane.
Oh
But I
man.
acquired the airplane in July of 2019, and we flew it for about 25 hours. And I took it up to Reno as a static display that year, and then on that big windy day that we all left Reno, and one of the Paideys crashed the
Yeah.
airplane that day.
Yeah.
Um, I had left just about 15 minutes before him on that windy day, and thankfully the Mustang handles a little better in the winds, and made it back to Chino and delivered the airplane to be taken apart. And then I didn't get to fly it again for until until about 2 weeks before Reno this last September. I
Man.
think I got the airplane back. Maybe it was 2 weeks.
Jeez.
I had a lot of work to do to get ready to fly Reno. I went out and flew every day. I flew, I don't know how many hours I flew. Well, you have to have 50 hours to
Right.
so I was between what I'd flown before and what I flew at Stallion. I had a 37, so I had to put at least 13 on, and then I flew more than that because I had to be ready to pass the check ride. So there was formation flying, and there was the the flip flops they ask you to do, and the simulated flame out. So that was the hardest one, was figuring out the energy management on the airplane for an engine out.
It's a slick airplane, I can imagine.
Yeah, not as slick as your jets.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you got a lot of drag with that prop up
Oh, and
there.
my God, and the jets. Well, the Legacy comes down like a brick. So demonstrating the Legacy is like pop up, pop down. The jet was like, you're going so fast, right? You pull off the course, and all of a sudden you're up at 11,000 feet or something, and you're like, okay, I got a lot of energy to burn off before I come in and land on the runway. And I remember the first time I did it, I overshot because I just was surprised at how much energy there was. And I do remember practicing SFOs in the jet over San Luis Reservoir and realizing that I could make it all the way to Salinas. Land with an engine out. So yeah, so the Mustang's somewhere in between. Yeah.
Well,
And
you've we talk about all the time, right? People paying their dues. So you've got loads and loads of time in a steerman, which was kind of one of the early trainers. The original pilots who flew that P-51 had a scant few hours in a steerman, went into a T6, then jumped into a
yeah,
plane like a P-51. From your perspective, since you're such a high time tailwheel pilot and all the experience you have, how was that transition moving into a plane like the P-51? It's a plane, most pilots would, love to get up in and fly, and few of us
right.
will. So
So I have about 2,000 hours in the Stearman almost, and I don't know. I think I have around 6,000 hours of tailwheel total.
Right.
I learned to fly in a tailwheel airplane, and for a long time I was snobbish enough to think that the only thing I could fly was a tailwheel airplane. But anyways, to go to Stallion, I went and did about 12 hours in a T6. So at least I got familiar with, the flaps and the gear. They're very similar in the Mustang as with the T6. I found the T6 really easy to fly after flying the Stearman and having flown tailwheel for so long. But the T6 and the Mustang both have a locking tailwheel, and it's taken some time to get used to taxiing because you can't just whip it around the way you can the Stearman or any other tailwheel airplane because of the limited travel of the locking tailwheel. And I think there's a lot of mass in the Mustang.
Hmm.
So whereas it's this very honest and pretty easy to fly airplane, you really have to respect a couple things about it. One is how much power there is and how much torque it generates with all that power. So, of course, you could kill yourself pretty easily by cobbing the power, right? Especially at
Yeah.
low level, having the airplane torque on you. But also with all that mass, I mean, I understand now why they put a locking tailwheel on is because with all that mass, the tail end would want to come around, right?
Yeah.
So every time I get in it, I'm pretty respectful of handling it because it is a big, heavy, pretty giant airplane
Yeah.
and very capable and very fast and it seems like it's docile, but it'll kill you if you're not careful. So yeah,
Well, it was the fighter of its time. I mean, it
right.
was the F-16 or the F-22 of its time. And it just goes to show again, as we talk every week about what's going on with the air races, and everybody wants the Monday morning quarterback, right? So we're going out to Roswell. That's where they are, and I think it's great, and it's kind of to let all the fans know, air racing fans, is that there's people out there making the investment. persisting despite those challenges. So I caution everybody, it's real easy to say, well, why don't we do it this way? Or I would do this, or I would do that. And then in the meantime, there's people like you that are actually out there doing stuff, because I'm sure you're not doing this just for yourself. I mean, hey, we all would love to have a P-51, but you've got a different, I mean, I watch what you do at the air shows. I watch what you do with the kids, what you're giving back to that next generation, and performing and showing this great airplane at 2 air shows right here in the local area. I got your whole schedule up there, but we've got 2 air shows coming up, and one is this weekend.
Yeah,
and it's
going up there today.
yeah, well, that's right. You're going to fly it up to Truckee today, so there's a great chance to kind of get a view of the airplane. Can you tell us, you have a packed schedule for this Truckee Tahoe Airshow?
I do. It's a 1-day show, and it's a free air show for the community, so it's great. Everybody should come out and see the air show. It's a great lineup and a good family event, free on Saturday. Yeah, my schedule for this week, they have me doing a podcast tonight with the FA on safety. I'm not sure exactly. and then tomorrow we fly. It's a practice. It's a high density altitude air show, so we get a couple practice days before the show. And so tomorrow's a practice, and the kids are going to come out. So all the local schools and are bringing the kids out for the show tomorrow, the practice show tomorrow, and that'll be a time where we can actually spend some time with the kids, because it'll be fewer people on the ramp. Our attention will be pulled in so many directions, so we can spend more time with the kids. And Friday's another practice show. Saturday, they are keeping us busy because we're flying twice. So I'll fly in the morning, and then there's a panel discussion at noon that I'll be participating in, and then we'll fly in the afternoon. And I believe we're doing a missing man formation for General Bud Anderson. So,
that's
I'm
right.
honored to be able to participate in that. Yeah.
Well, it's
yeah.
A free air show is rare anymore. So, I mean, kudos to everyone involved with the Truckee Tahoe Air Show, because, I mean, you fly a lot of air shows and see what's out there. It's rare to see a free event like this. So if you can get up to Truckee today, tomorrow, this weekend, anything, get up there on Saturday and show support, and go see the airplane, because, I mean, you're not, you just don't see airplanes like this anymore showing up at air shows. Especially, this is as a pure racer, right? So this is not, commemorating some squadron in World War II. Not there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, this is air racing. This is an air race bird. And Vicky, I put you in a special category anyway. From air racing, you've raced, anybody that's raced 3 different classes, you're in kind of a group all to yourself, right? Because there's very few people that, move between classes like that. And I mean, can you talk a little bit? Is that kind of a leap and a jump to move in between classes and fly such radically different aircraft?
I just feel so fortunate that I've been able to do that. But I started out in sport, of course, and so that was good because I got to learn the course at slower speeds. And then I moved to the jet. So then I learned the jet. The jet's pretty easy to fly. I mean, it was a trainer jet, so it's easy to fly. And I was fortunate that I already knew the course. So that made a big difference in getting through rookie school in the jet, was because I didn't have to learn the course at the same time as the airplane. And then unlimited was different yet. And in sport, it's all about flying the engine, right? I mean, we've hopped up our engines so much that at any moment they're gonna give out. And I've had three maydays, 3 basically engine losses on the race course in sport. You don't really expect that in the jet, right? They very rarely do the engines just quit.
If it starts, it'll run, unless you run out of gas.
It'll run, right? So flying the jet's more about flying in the traffic and avoiding the wake turbulence. And let me tell you, you get in the wake turbulence in those jets, and it just will roll you inverted instantaneously, and it's quite scary. So you learn to learn to fly outside of the wake turbulence, and then in the unlimited, it's different yet, because now instead of just having like one knob, the throttle, like in a jet, right?
Yeah.
You also have to deal with the RPMs and the throttle. And fortunately, in the Mustang, there's no mixture you have to dial like in the Sport, right? Which is what you're dialing all the time in Sport.
Right.
But when you get into wake turbulence in the Mustang, it doesn't just roll you up, it also pitches you nose down, which was totally unexpected to me. And those Sea Furies, they throw off a wicked wake.
Yeah.
So if anybody noticed me flying just a little bit higher, it was to stay out of their wake, because it was pretty wicked. And where I expected the roll part, I did not expect the pitch, which I assume is due to the angular momentum of that big heavy prop.
Oh yeah.
In front of the airplane. Yeah.
Didn't think
But
about that.
but I had a ball. I mean, it was probably the pinnacle of my flying career to get to fly in the races in Plum Crazy last September. That was just, I don't know, indescribable to finally get to fly an unlimited in such a historic airplane. It just doesn't get any better in life. Now it's just like on the downhill.
You know what though, but you've earned it, and it's what a lot of people say, right? I have my challenges, I've got my obstacles, but you have kind of, I mean, there's no other way to say it. You've paid your dues by just doing aviation, right? I mean,
Like 2,000 hours in a Stearman.
yeah, but I mean,
Huge.
yeah, and how many people will quit so far before that, right? Because it's hard, it's humiliating sometimes. You had talked about sport class. I will announce publicly one of the biggest mistakes I ever made as a friend of yours and mine. Rick Vandam gave me a chance to fly a small little Lancer, the Lancer 320, I guess, at the air races, and I snubbed it off. I got, nah, I just want to go right into the jets. The stupid Costa ego gets in the way, and I never ended up racing. Because of challenges and dollars at the time. But there's opportunities that come up for all of us, and you've been taking advantage of them, and it's not all easy. So I love talking to people like you that have, you reach this pinnacle, right? So everybody goes, well, geez, how did Vicky get there? Well, 40 years of hard work, you're an overnight success.
Yeah, so I have this philosophy, and I've been offered a lot of opportunities in my life, and some of them involve risk, right? So you get an opportunity, somebody opens a door for you, you walk through the door, you don't know what's on the other side. It's a big risk, right?
Yeah.
But some of them work out, some of them you fall on your face, but if they work out, then more opportunities, more doors open.
Yeah.
And you take more risk and walk through more doors. And I think, if you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone and try new things, that's how I ended up where I got to, is just by stepping out of my comfort zone repeatedly and trying and challenging myself. So
well, and that's great advice, because we manage risk as aviators. We're not daredevils per se, but what you said is key. There's opportunity there, you need to take it, and it's scary sometimes, and you're right, you'll fall on your face, but falling on your face is not a failure. It's just a wake-up call to keep going. I mean, we all
experience.
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, we're also here to talk. Obviously, we got the Reno Airshow, which is in October, so this is kind of a double whammy.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that. I'm so excited, and I hope all the Reno fans come out, because the people putting on the air show are the Reno people. I've looked at the lineup of aviators. They're all people who've been involved in Reno, either as racers or as performers. It's put on by the Reno Air Race Association. It really is a celebration of Reno and the Reno Air Races, and I can't wait to go.
I can't either. It's as we say, it's a farewell, I guess, or a thank you to the local Reno community while the next chapter of air racing comes forward. It's a chance to be out there and at the same old place. Everybody was asking me. It's still at Reno Tahoe Stead Airport. It's not at the main airport. So I had that question. I just had that question pop up again here on my sideline. It's at the same place. It's at the where air racing lived for almost 60 years.
Look at, I'm getting goosebumps. I mean, it's like that place. It's like this special place.
It's like the Mecca.
I just love being there, and I love being there on the ramp at night, with the airplanes and the sky, and sometimes it'd be storms of the Sierra and lightning, or you're treated to these amazing sunsets. And I don't know, it's like I left my heart in Reno Stead.
Yeah.
They should write a song about that.
Yeah, I won't sing it, but we should play it around. So Roswell, I'm thinking on the first year or the second year of Roswell, it's going to be kind of a really fun event because it'll be new and different, but it'll be kind of I don't know, almost like the Burning Man of aviation at first, right? People camping out at the airport, having fun, reminiscing, but looking forward to this new chapter. I'm assuming you're going to be racing in 2025.
Oh, well, I need to work out the logistics.
Yeah, so do I.
I'm not a one-man team.
Yeah.
So if I can work out the support logistics, I will definitely be there.
Right on. Right on. Well, like I said, you've got a full air show schedule. I mean, there's not an excuse not to come out and see Plum Crazy and Vicky. If you're looking at her schedule, or I put the whole schedule up, you're going to be all over the place. And I think it's great for people to come out and just say hi. You're very approachable. You do a lot of great work with all the kids in this next generation of aviators that hopefully one day might even fly something like a P-51 themselves. As I tell all the young kids, yeah, exactly.
Me around when I can no longer fly.
Exactly. I pulled in to want to do all the FBOs. If I don't have a ground crew, I had to call the FBO, and they had to give me a ladder to get out of the jet because I'm too old to jump out of the jet. Very, very cool. Vicky, out of all this, words of advice for anybody getting into aviation today, from a flying standpoint, any advice to this next generation of aviators?
Oh, I just go do it because it'll change your life. I mean, I think flying is the best thing that ever happened to me. And it changed me as a person. It gave me so much more confidence to learn how to fly. And I think that's huge, especially for young people. So yeah, I'd say just work hard and make it happen no matter what. And, if there's an obstacle in your way, go figure out how to get around it or over it. Cause it's completely doable. You can make it happen.
And there's people out here like you and that's why I love having you on, because you are so humble. And I think a lot of times I'm finishing up my book, which is called Shut Up, Show Up, Be Excellent. This kind of fits my attitude, but you're indicative, I think, of a lot of aviators that have achieved a lot through the years of hard work and just doing it and showing up and flying and gaining that experience. I mean, it's a welcoming environment. It doesn't seem so at first. If you don't look a certain way or act a certain way, it seems like it's out. But
I always thought the opposite, David. I always felt like if I went out to an airport, I would have instant friends. I mean, no matter where I moved in the country, and I've moved quite a few times with my career, and wherever I moved to, I'd show up at the airport and you have instant friends if you love airplanes. So I think it is a very welcoming community. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
It is, but people have in their brain, right, that it's that false fear that they won't be welcomed. And we love when somebody walks up into the hangar, has some questions, love to show people things, and then they got to take those opportunities and get involved, volunteer at air shows, volunteer to help somebody else. You talked about support. There's a lot of support people need, and ask those questions and be willing to, take that next step forward and just try it. You're absolutely right in
Yeah.
what you say, and there's people just like Vicky all over the place, because you're very welcoming. And I think that's why CAU I think made a great choice in sponsoring you and what you do, because we need aviators. We don't need systems managers flying airplanes. We need aviators, people that can fly a Stearman. If you can fly a Stearman, you can one day fly a P-51, maybe. I've been humbled by a Stearman one too many times.
They can humble you in a second.
Absolutely.
Why are you doing this?
Well, that's outstanding. Vicky, I want to thank you. I had promised to keep this into 31 minutes, and I know you've got to fly today, and I want to be respectful of your time. But it's always a thrill when I get to talk to you. You're one of the people I really look up to, because I've just watching what you do is just really, really special. So thank you as always.
I had great fun talking to you. I had great fun doing this. Thank you.
Oh, great. And everybody, get out there and support what we do. Support what Vicky's doing. Go out and see her, say hi, support the air races. We're coming back. It's going to be fun. Buckle up. And this weekend at Truckee, in October in Reno, and then all the new chapters. So, Vicky, once again, thank you so much
Thank you
for coming on board. All right.
All right.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is David Costa. I am the Renegade Aviator. I'm going to fly my jet too. See ya. All right.